Empower your leadership journey with the CEO Series. Whether you're at the gym, strolling, or commuting, our impactful dialogues with world-class leaders are just a click away. Immerse yourself in the minds of visionaries shaping today's most influential companies and innovations. It's not just an interview. It's a masterclass in leadership. Don't miss out. Available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and major streaming platforms.
Good morning, good evening, depending upon what part of the world you're in. If it's Friday, it is the CEO Series. We try and bring together the most inspiring leaders, entrepreneurs, innovators from across the globe that share their insights as it relates to leadership. It's been called the Leadership Masterclass. I'm excited today as our guest is Brian Rizwan, who is with nearly 2 decades of experience. Brian leads the integrated risk management and security operations sectors at Wipro, following his acquisition of Edgile. His global perspective and commitment to innovation, cost efficiency, and diversity has solidified his reputation as one of the top business and IT transformation visionaries. And with that, I want to welcome Brian. How are you, man?
I'm well, Ron. How are you? Thanks for having me this morning.
Good. I'm glad to have you here. I've always been a fan from afar, watching your growth. So we always like to start the show with talking through your career and how you.
Sure.
I'm going to say the top of the pyramid. You're moving in that direction. So talk us through your career journey to become one of the top global executives in risk management and security operations sector. How did it start from here to?
It's definitely an interesting and fun question. So I went to a small school in Philadelphia called St. Joseph's University. And it was just kind of by happenstance that I decided to go there, but really found a couple great friends who were part of a program with the professor, an accounting program where we learned accounting through technology. So instead of doing like a debit and a credit with like a T account on a piece of paper, we did it through a software technology called SAP, which you might be familiar with. So we were doing that in the classroom. And I real quickly kind of leaned into that pretty heavily with the professor and wound up start teaching a lot of the classes, writing papers, and really getting passionate about risk and technology, accounting, et cetera. So I did my internship at PwC. At the time there, they had a great, fantastic internship program, and they didn't offer an internship that was focused on the technology side of it. So I did a kind of a core audit internship in the years of the first couple of years of Sarbanes-Oxley at the time. So I got some really good foundational experience there. But quickly I came back from that and I said, I need to be around tech. I need to be around compliance and to be around risk and things like that. So I asked them to change my offer to be in that tech risk and controls practice, if you will, that was growing around SAP. So that's some really great folks at the PwC office where a lot of that was coming from. As you know, SAP's US-based headquarters outside of Philadelphia. So the Philly office was a bit of a hub for that kind of work. And from there, it really helped me start seeing the world a little bit because a lot of our clients were global. Actually, one of my best friends who was a couple years older than me when I was at St. Joe's, actually went to PwC. Him and his wife moved to London, and I'm seeing like all these opportunities now that start to exist. So actually flew over to London to go to hang out for the weekend with them. And I said, hey, can you introduce me to your boss? I'd love to figure out if there's a way when you get back, if I could maybe like come in and do what you're doing. So he was a great example of, someone that was a sponsor for me to help me progress in my career. But it's really that moving to London then, building a team there, moving back to New York, building a team there. And it's just incremental growth, taking on more responsibility based on the experience that I was able to get over those years. And then I decided to leave PwC, at one point to try a new challenge. And that's what I moved over to Edgile. And that was about 5.5, almost 6 years ago now. And it was interesting. We were going through kind of the rebirth of our risk and compliance practice here. And we hitched our wagon to a technology platform called ServiceNow. Ironically, the CEO of SAP at the time when I was working there was Bill McDermott. Bill McDermott has since then left and moved to ServiceNow. So it's been fun to watch him kind of do like the next round of what he's been doing. And, we then moved our business at Edgile to focus on ServiceNow. And then that led to an acquisition, and so a lot of this has been just incremental growth, surrounding myself by great people, putting myself out there, moving. I think, my partner, Charlie, and I have packed suitcases, most months, and probably packed the house about 6 or 7 times, just to take on different opportunities.
That's so cool, because one of the things that as I teach a couple of courses at the university level. And one of the things you mentioned, you said, I asked. So you went to London and you talked with and you asked them, you talked about mentors inside of this transformational growth, as opposed to sitting back waiting for things to fall in your lap. You kind of drove it. Mm-hmm. So the importance of driving a thirst for a career.
Yeah.
Which is what I gathered from your journey.
You have to be in control. You can't let anyone just wait for these things to happen. It's got to be something that's very proactive. I was fortunate enough to study abroad, actually, when I was in university. It's funny. I did my internship junior year. They paid us quite well at the time. And then I had a job offer. I took all that money and spent it in Madrid. So I studied abroad with that. And that kind of got me this thirst for like being a global citizen. And that's when I knew that if I'm working at a big firm like PwC, I need to make sure that I'm finding an opportunity for me to go live abroad and to grow, broaden and deepen my skill sets. No one's going to wait and hand that to me. That was something I needed to go figure out how to go do myself. So that's where it was about leveraging the network, and making some pretty clear asks about, hey, Pat, would you mind making a quick intro to your boss so I can get to know him and go figure something out?
Because so many people would have said, oh, no, I don't want to do that. Even if you were coaching someone and said, why don't you present that as a question to your mentor, boss, whatever. They said, no, I don't feel comfortable in doing that. Yeah. What you're saying is that you have to, we're all the CEOs. So my way of looking at it this way, we're all the CEOs of our careers. You're the CEO and you're going to drive it. So you'll run into roadblocks, you'll do all these things, but you're in charge.
Exactly. So it's interesting, even just making that happen, and not to get into too many details, but it was interesting how I had to actually put myself out there to make that London thing happen. So at the time, if you think about a big firm like PwC, they had these different business groups. One was, tax, one's audit, they actually called it assurance. And another one is advisory or consulting. And what I did always flipped between 2 lines of business, between assurance and between consulting. So when I came back from London and said, I want to go abroad, my local leaders understood. They're like, yep, this makes sense. But when it got up to the top of the chain of folks that I've never met, they actually said, oh, no, there's no business case here because it's in a different business group. Like, why would we go send Brian from group A to group B, even though we're doing the same thing? And, at one point I remember having a conversation. I was sitting in a hotel room with my father and talking to him. And I said, hey, well, what do you think? I'm in my mid-20s. I make X. My big career is in front of me here right now. What if I have to quit the firm in the US to go get rehired in the UK? But then there's risk now that the US firm won't take me back and I'm stuck, and so we kind of agreed at that point, like, let's, it's okay to take that risk at that point in time in your career. So I actually said I was going to do that. Ironically, luckily, through some other networks of friends that I had, when they found out about this, I had a whole group of people rallying around me. And like 3 days later, the whole thing was sorted out. But I had to put myself out there to actually say to people, no, this is what I'm doing. This is what I want to do. It's what's best for my career, and actually, attempt to resign from the US firm to go get rehired.
Yeah, I'm amazed by in your 20s, you were thinking at this level. So I have to say, people in a lot of cases don't learn those lessons until they've gone through failures, successes, failures, because careers is kind of like a bumpy road. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not cool, and where did that come from? Where did that level of thinking, that strategic thinking to say, I want to analyze this? Because you mentioned the term business case, because the organization is not looking for you. They're looking for a business case. Can you align to the issues we're trying to solve?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, first of all, I mean, I had incredible foundations at home with my parents. You know, they gave us every opportunity that we wanted, and a lot of the things. You know, I wasn't a sports guy. That was not my thing. You know, I have my brother and my sister. They're the sports folks, and what they've done with their sports careers are absolutely incredible. Myself, though, I was doing other things. You know, I somehow gravitated more towards let me be the leader of this club. You know, let me go. You know, I think at one point, even in grade school, I was like, I'm going to be the editor in chief of the newspaper and the yearbook. You know, so I like, for some reason, control, and I like putting myself in those positions and taking on responsibility and pushing myself, even just from a very young age. You know, did that all the way into high school and into college. You know, and then obviously with the support of my parents, you know, I found some great professors as well, you know, in my university career. You know, we kind of joked in that program I spoke about at St. Joe's in accounting with technology. You know, that professor is still a dear friend of mine today. And he ran his little organization of students getting ready to teach technology as a consulting firm. He's probably the hardest person I've ever worked for. And I was like a sophomore in college. You know, when things didn't work, you know, phones were flying across the room. You know, we were in, you know, class started at 8 o'clock. We were there at 6:30, you know, on a Thursday morning, getting ready for class to make sure it worked. So that sort of like rigor was very early instilled upon me, you know, from a lot of those experiences that I had. And I think that just really just drove me to be the person that I am today.
Yeah. So relationships, you mentioned rigor because it's a lot of work.
Oh yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
know, it's a lot of work. My work is global, and sometimes I'm getting a call at midnight, at 1 a.m.
Oh
I had one this morning at 2 a.m.
yeah.
This is what you deal with.
Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what you deal with. So it's great that you had the parents there. You had the situation that were presenting themselves as to how you were going to move beyond. How would you coach or mentor a young person in accounting?
Yeah.
And I'm going to say this, and I mean this in a nice way. Normally, you would not think I'm an accountant with the level of thinking that you are above navigating and all those kinds of things.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, it's about, well, first, I like this term of sponsorship, right? You've actually been a mentor and sponsor to me, Ron. I remember as I was thinking through career moves, you know, sitting with you in Shanghai, you know, we talked and we kind of figured out, you know, what are we doing here? You know, I've
tell that.
I have my people, and I need to be available as people for others, right? And that's what I've been looking for. So, you know, so I go back to campus at St. Joe's. I meet with the students every year. You know, and professors got a program, and I let them know that there's a world outside of your traditional tax, accounting, you know, auditing, et cetera, that, you know, being an accountant is foundational. Even the president of St. Joe's, her and I met when I was on campus a few weeks ago, new president, she's an accountant, you know, but she's running the university, you know, so you have to let people know that it's more than just about getting a great job and doing the same thing, that there's these fantastic opportunities out there. And so, you know, I like to go back to campus. I like to meet with the students and things like that to let them know, like, here's my career journey, and you can do something completely different, you know, but here's an example of what I was able to go do.
Yeah. So I one of the phrases I always use, and I mentioned this in a session that I did the other week, I know more lawyers that are not lawyering. I know doctors that are not doctoring.
Yeah.
Because the skill set is there, but all of a sudden the transition moves towards something else. And they are a lot happier doing what they're doing, non-lawyering and non-doctoring, than they would be as a doctor with patients, as an accountant sitting in a firm and doing that. And the importance of younger people coming in, because there's a lot of frustrations in the job market today. People are trying to find the next step. But I think a lot of it is just methodical. I got to go from this step to this step to this step.
Yeah, but I think a lot of those professions, you learn these foundations, though, that are very transferable. You know, and so for me, for example, I run a P&L right now. You know, I'm responsible for sales, for revenue, for cost, for profitability, you know, and all those types of things. Well, I wouldn't have had the right level of acumen on what it means to run that today if it wasn't for that foundational accounting career. You know, I imagine doctors and lawyers who are doing different things are able to pick up pieces of their foundations of education and apply that to the thing that they might be more passionate about or is more of interest to them, you know, right now. So I think some of those things just kind of happen for a reason, you know, and that I'm out able to go run my business, I think hopefully very well because of some of those foundations, that I got from my education.
Yeah, I wanted to do a shout out to Peter Piccinini, who's a frequent listener. He says his wife went to St. Joe's.
That's good.
Yeah, so we have a global audience. We have John Self, based out of Texas, who's a career expert.
Great.
He's doing an April 27th career boot camp. We have Jim Moy, who's a big attorney out of Washington, D.C. So we have a global audience. It's not
That's great.
U.S. based. For the most part, that's more global impact than it is from the U.S. But the reason we do these shows, and it's kind of transpired over a period of time, is that you have stories to tell, and people see the top of the pyramid, but they don't see the transitions you made from coming from St. Joe's to navigating with a degree that I could have been stuck in an office and doing stuff. And now I'm seen as a visionary kind of into this place and risk.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fun, and we're just getting started too. I mean, I think we were acquired as well, so it's been fun going from a PwC firm, a global brand, and as you know, they're a network of firms. So while the U.S. firm and the U.K. firm are different, there's high brand recognition at at the highest level. Going to a small boutique firm of 220 people, now back to a firm of 240,000 people that's global, that's actually one P&L, and where it's different from the big four, where, like I said, the US and the UK and the South American firm are very different, but they're a network. Where I'm at today is one global integrated organization of 240,000 people, so that just provides tons of opportunities, obviously complexities for navigating, how you progress there. But that's what I'm trying to share with my team now. It's like, here's where we're going. And I walk in a room with my team, and I've been getting them together through the transition. And I said, what are we going for? And they all say in unity, global domination. We're giving them opportunities to do things globally, move folks to Australia. I'm hiring someone in the Middle East, put a leader in Europe. Lots of fun things. So this is what I wake up every morning getting excited about.
Yeah, I look at your travel schedule. I said, I think mine is bad. No, you've got it. You the Oscars of global travel. So you talked about leadership style that's been developed over the years. How has that evolved from St. Joe's internships and moving beyond, asking for this? How has your leadership style evolved over the years? Because you come out of a school, you said, I'm going to be a manager or whatever it is. Forget about it. But I'm dealing with 15 different individuals. I'm dealing with a global context. How did that evolve over the years?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think so. Over the years, obviously, I've learned a lot, I would say, in terms of how to be a leader, if you will. I like to think that I'm generally a collaborative leader. I like to seek input and take people on a journey. I'm on a plane all the time doing things. I'm journeying, and I like to get people on my train with me and in my wagon as we move through that. So what I really focus on is trying to, in the beginning, kind of flatten the competition. Where it's like, all right, we're the good news about being like a PwC, for example, or a big firm, is that there's not just one spot for making manager for promotion. There's not one spot for getting to the next level. So first you got to build like camaraderie in the troops and in your team and your peers, and build some trust. And then from there, I think people start making some moves and decisions that allow you to go progress. But at least foundationally, you have people that are next to you that like you and want to work with you and potentially get on your wagon. And I learned something, very important from, one of the first partners that I worked for at PwC. And, I thought I was ready for promotion, very early on. He actually sort of, I'm ready. Let's go. Let's bring me more. And arguably he would have probably admitted that I was as well, but he said, no, we're not going to do it. And he goes, and here's why, because let's go pretend you're the only person. So like you started with a class of 25 people, and let's pretend you're the only person that's ready for it. Now you are off their island and you have no support system around you. And he goes, it's too early in your career to go be doing that. And then the next group's going to go look at you as a threat coming up behind, and you're not part of their group, and then you're not part of their group anymore. So he taught me about building these networks early on, and that you got to be a bit patient, especially early on in your career as you progress.
Wow. That is, you couldn't have paid for an MBA to give you that. You could not, because we have these thoughts of how we should be here, and that person pulling you back and kind of giving you a dose of reality, the landscape, that became a grounding point to move forward.
Exactly. So I share that with my team now, that story. And then, I get people coming to me, I'm the best. And my mom said, I'm really good at this and whatever. And we had these conversations. So we talk about all that. And so I share that story. But to me, it's progressed over the years. I'm really focused on trust. So I like to surround myself with people that, I believe we have a really good trusting relationship with. They trust me to do the right thing. I trust them to be basically my deputies and people that need to act on my behalf. There's no way today that I can be involved in every single decision that we're working on. So I need to get the right people and roles and make them feel empowered to go make those decisions on my behalf. We're not growing and scaling. They're not growing and scaling in their career. If 7 people need to be involved in every single decision, it's not going to work that way. So now I'm focused on trust and empowerment, at kind of my leadership team level, if you will, to allow us to all take on these opportunities.
Yeah. So that's kind of the anchor. In other words, to be in this fold, this is the anchor of what we're trying to do. I think it's great that you're not taking the role of a manager, leader, and I'm doing everything, but how do I develop my team? So I heard a speech from one gentleman who was in the construction business, and he said, my role is not to build buildings. My role is to build leaders to build buildings. Like, whoa.
Absolutely. No, I would agree. I mean, not one person can do this all on their back themselves, and so I really see my role as trying to help create the vision, let people know where we're going. And I think the important thing is why we're going there. And if you don't explain the why we're going there, I think it's hard to get people surrounded and interested, and kind of in your camp and supporting you. So I also like to make sure we're spending time on the why. Here's why we're going there, and here's what it's going to mean for us and our clients and you and our team, et cetera.
So I do a lot of work in leadership development, and I always tell leaders, I said, explain the why.
Yeah.
What is the why statement? If you can't explain the why, you're not going to get people to follow into that. And the vast majority of change initiatives fail because they can't explain the why we're doing it.
We've been through this incredible, as I mentioned, change management exercise right now with taking a 220-person firm and trying to integrate them into a global firm of 240,000 people. And, I feel like in my practice, we've been quite successful in being able to manage that change. Because it comes down to communication. It comes to the trust I mentioned before. I think, hopefully by now they trust me as a leader and know I'm going to go do the right thing. Is it going to be perfect? 100% no. Nothing's perfect, but at least they feel like we had this level of dialogue. And then that why is super important. Here's why we're going there. Here's what it means. Stick with us. As long as you execute, I believe, on these incremental commitments you're making as well, that's how you're able to keep that trust on that journey. And so, setting timelines. Here's where we're going to get to. Let's get there together, so it's this incremental progress. Otherwise, people won't be bought in for the long haul.
I'm going to say this in a nice way.
Yeah, please.
At your age, to have this level of vision and insight, I find remarkable, because I deal with CEOs and C-suite teams across the globe, and I see people that are of age that have not gotten there yet.
Well, thank you. No, I mean, you can see the hair proves it, hopefully.
I think it's an important transition that you're going to lose the hair. So
I'm on my way.
Yeah, you're on your way to do that. So what did you find that was most challenging as a leader as you started moving up? So you've had great mentors that were able to pull you back from the edge and said, calm down and let's discuss this in a different context. What did you find most challenging as you began the process of rising up to become a global leader?
Yeah, it's a great question. I kind of have 2 reactions come to that. I think one is, as I transitioned into kind of my current team and role now, the level of, so it is a bit of a domain change for me. I went from a business process, talking to a CFO type of a role, moving into more of a security, cyber risk management, talking to a risk officer, an information security officer type role. So there was a bit of a domain pivot for me. And one of the things I had to focus on, and I could, with that, you have different people on the team, with their different skill sets. And the guys that, I started working with where I'm at today, really technical, they think about the world through code and outcomes from that perspective, and just really technical. And I was over here talking about some financy stuff, right? So I needed to go get a way to go kind of build trust with them, because they believe in this level of proficiency, where it's a 1 or a 0. There's no gray area, if you will. This is the answer. And so that's not me. And so what I needed to spend some time on was trying to build their trust and understand how they operated and understand how they thought, and for us to go bridge a gap, between the two of us. So that to me was, it's very important, that understanding your different team members and kind of what makes them tick. I love this thing called Strengths Finder as well. And the Strengths Finder book, and I've done it about 3 or 4 times in my career, and it's funny. I kind of see the same core things come up, but there's a couple things that evolve over time. And I try to do either a formal or informal version of Strengths Finder with my team, because I believe if you wake up every morning and 70-80% of what you do is what you're good at and you like to do, you are going to go want to do it and do it well. Obviously, everyone needs that challenge. Everyone needs that push to go grow. If you want to go, some people are like, I don't like public speaking. I'm shy. And so you give them an opportunity to go, you do some public speaking and build that over time, if you will. But I think if you understand everyone's strengths in a very open way, and know that, like, Ron, you have a set of strengths that might be different than mine. So how do we complement each other and pair each other up to go get 1 + 1 = more than 2? That's what I'm focused on right now with my team to help us all grow. But I need to go spend time to understand, what makes them tick, and what are those strengths to allow them to kind of unleash a bit more and for us to move together.
Wow. So we have developed a leadership development program, and it's based on what you just said. It's called a symphonic C-suite, and every team member plays a different instrument. But when you listen to a symphony, you don't know the parts of this. The final deliverable that comes out of that.
Yep.
So in talking to that, understanding each person's strength, because you mentioned, you mentioned public speaking. So I tell teams that I'm developing, someone may be great at public speaking, so that's the role that they would play. That's the instrument that they would play. Another person is good on the research, putting all the numbers together, the slide deck, all those kind of things. But the storyteller is the person we would need to do that. So that brings me to another point, is understanding the audience. You're talking about understanding the audience of a developer who's thinking in a totally different mindset than you are. And how do I bridge those and create that one team? Is that kind of where we're talking about?
That's exactly what we're talking about. And so if I think about, now my team in my kind of new role is something about 400 to 500 people, a whole group of folks of domain experts, people I'd put in front of C-suite executives, people I never want talking to a client. So how do you understand everyone's strengths? I need them all. They're all super important. And so how do we build these complementary sets of people and teams, to allow us to go add value? I think it's also on the receiving end. I'm in the client service business. The only way we make money is when clients say, I want to work with these people and that team, if you will. I'm not selling widgets here. I don't have, we have some tech, but it's not like, they're not buying software for me every day. They're buying my people and they're buying experience. And so how do we put together teams of people that are the right level of technical domain, interpersonal skills? You got to make people feel good on the receiving end of it as well, because some of the stuff isn't easy. So how do I complement all these people with the full team that I have, to go make sure that we're giving our clients the best experience that we can? That's what I focus on all day. It's almost like sitting there with a big board of people and moving things around and seeing what the outcomes are.
You're creating a symphony. You're the orchestra leader with the baton.
Yeah, exactly.
And understanding each instrument that each person plays. And this is why that's important. So sorry about that. So if you think in terms of your practice area, and we're going to stay on the same theme.
Yep.
Compliance, complex technology. That's different meeting now, different meeting here.
Yeah.
How do you stay above? I don't want to say stay above the fray. How does Brian learn? How does Brian learn the complex issues that are happening inside of?
Yeah, so I think of an interesting learning style. Some people just need to. I have guys on my team who want a couple hours by themselves in a sandbox technical demo environment and just tinker around. Yeah. And then it clicks for them. Some people want to go read. Some people want, learning based, courses and things like that. I learn by talking to people. And so like the way if I was to learn, on some new things with my team, I'll get in a room or a virtual room with them and I want to get on a whiteboard and I want to start drawing and I want it to be a safe space. And I want to, what I would say, ask some really dumb, basic, simple, fundamental questions that allow me to go kind of build up over time my knowledge and connect dots. And then that's how my light bulbs go off, So then I start drawing this picture and some lines and connections. And then we add more things in over time. So that's my learning styles. I got to talk to people at different levels, understand, from them, because I think they see maybe a little bit different than me. And then I'm the one actually who draws the picture. And I said, does this make sense now? And I think that's one of my strengths is the connectivity of that picture, because they're usually thinking of some of these things sometimes in silos. And when I draw it, I think we can all then, coalesce around it, and be on the same page from a vision perspective.
So the term, the big shot term behind that is psychological safety, creating that in a group that they feel comfortable in asking that question. And what you mentioned was asking the dumb questions are always the most powerful. I don't care what people say.
No, I think,
because the dumb question there's the Oscars of the meeting, because it brings everybody back, because there's a lot of other people sitting in that room thinking the exact same thing, but they don't have the confidence to bring it up and ask that dumb question.
Yeah, I'm doing this a lot right now. I mean, we're, as my role is kind of expanding outside of ServiceNow into a bit more as well, I have these people coming to me. They're naming 40 technology vendors right now, startups, AI firms, things, all these things, different platforms, things are about hot and about to go IPO, just keeps going, right? So there's a list of these things. And I'm sitting here and I'm being like, trying to put myself in the shoes of like a CTO, a chief technology officer, or a CIO. Imagine being a CTO to CIO whose job actually at the organization is to go, make money and sell things and do things, not to go do all these other things internally. And all these tech vendors are coming at you with their propositions. Yeah. Well, how do you weed it out? What do I need? What is a must-have that I need for my business? And by me acquiring or wiring different techs together, what's the incremental value add that I'm going to be getting? So these are the types of questions that I'm asking right now as we're seeing this kind of tech environment explode with more and more vendors. It's fantastic, but someone's got to explain to me, without that, what am I not getting and what's the value proposition of me spending time on it? So those are the types of questions that, we're talking right now about, because we need some of these things, but I can't have them all. We got to get focused, and that's really where, I like talking very openly with my team about what that looks like.
So that's kind of a filtering system. You think of the funnel, you put so much in, you got 40, 50 here, but it goes down 2 steps. And at the bottom of it, who's going to come up? Maybe 1, 2, or 3. And we do diligence on those. And then we begin the process.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. And we can't, and I want to acknowledge, I believe strongly that we can't be everything to everybody. We won't do it well. Yeah. And, we built the foundations of, what I built past 5 or 6 years here at Edgile and Wipro is by doing a couple things really, really well. And that's how we built our reputation. Yeah. There's these 2 business units at ServiceNow. One's called risk and one's called security operations. And they, for a while have been separate. And when we started, we said, we're only doing risk. We're going to be your number 1 risk partner in the ecosystem. And all the guys were like, well, can you do security? We're like, we can, but we're not going to do it yet. Yeah. Give us 18 months to really harden that we do risk really well, categorically. And then we naturally pulled into security. Now we're one of the top security partners, but we have to get really focused on the things that we do well. If we take on too much, if we dilute it, we're not going to do anything well. So that's one of the things that I try to make sure we using the word filtering. I try to filter with my team to make sure that we're focused and that we're able to be, the best that we can do.
So that branding piece is the overall risk. And the others, I'm going to say sub-dependencies of that. We build this out well, then we can partner and move into these kinds of, because companies are coming to you not as a solution for all. They may be drawn to your purpose or vision as to what the big picture looks like. And then it can always kind of cascade down.
Yeah, we draw this thing called we call it the big picture. There's a slide we make that's called the big picture. There's a lot of boxes on it.
Yeah.
And what it allows us to go do is back to that vision point I was making before, is that here's what you need to get to. You probably need all these boxes lit up, but we're going to go talk about these two things here right now. All right, we're going to make them green. This is phase one. All right, maybe in 6 months we'll work on these other boxes. We'll make that phase two. That's yellow, And so we had this ability to have this big picture vision created, but then we're able to get really focused on these areas. And I think that's what our success has been, differentiating from a lot of our other competitors who are partners and implementation folks and consulting folks. They'll say, we'll go do that whole picture right now. And they get nothing done. Nothing gets delivered because it's too complex. But what I'll do is I'll go light up 2 of those boxes in 12 weeks.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Now you can go do something with it and show your management and your leadership that you've actually made some incremental, progress. So that's been a shift in mindset and approach that we take that makes us really successful in the market.
A lot of our conversation has been around strategic thinking. And what I mean, I call it the from to. We're here now, we're going to go here. That's the two. Yeah. How do we get to the two? The two is the bridges that walks us through from one side to the other. That's a unique skill to have. So I'm giving you the compliment at your age to be able to
think. Yeah, thank you.
Because, I say that I had a call. I don't want to say I have calls.
Yeah.
I'm talking to this concept, and the so-called leadership team they're so far down in the weeds.
Yeah.
Do you find it hard sometimes to pull people back from the edge, to give them kind of the big picture? Let me walk you through the two, and what we need to concentrate on is to get to the bridge to build it across.
Yeah, what I've found with some of my team, and I mean this with all due respect, is we actually do a daily call with the team, and I can only join about half of them, but there's a daily call with my core leadership team, and we get on 15, 20, 30 minutes. It's exactly to go do that. Because if everyone actually, if even myself, if I answered every email that I get, every phone call that I get, everyone asking me to do things and co-opt me and my team to go do things, and it's probably with good intention, we wouldn't get anything done. So we get on this call every day to go pull everyone back from the ledge, because sometimes the team sees what's going on and they start spinning. We have all the stuff to go do. I'm like, stop, take a minute. Where are we going? All right, that's not important. That's not important over here. That can wait. And here's why it's being asked for. And it's being asked for a reason that we don't want to go down that rabbit hole. So let's go stop. And so we do that as a team. And I have a couple other really great leaders who help me think like that a little bit to make sure that we're able to roll things back, because this world's incredible with the amount of technology, constant communication. You're running a global business, Ron. I have folks around the world. Every minute I look at my phone, there's just something there. And first of all, we got to look out for us. We need time to go sleep. We need time to recharge ourselves in order to make sure that we can provide the best leadership, for my team and things like that. But we need to reel things back a little bit and make sure that we're focused on the right thing. So I do that every day with my team.
Okay, so let's talk about work-life balance, because I know you're. I gotta go with this. You're on flights all over. And you're doing
myself up
all over the world. Charlie, you guys are in Vegas now, right? Us in
Northern Nevada, Reno, Tahoe area.
Nevada, and you're doing all these things. And talk to me, work-life balance.
That's a great question. Yeah, it's a great question. So first of all, Charlie's super supportive. I'm really lucky about that. He's building his business too. So it's kind of interesting. We're both in our business growth mode right now. So we're both really focused on what we're trying to go do here. We have a vision and a goal of the why and what we're trying to get to, very similar to that I have with my team. So we're doing it for a reason right now, which is super exciting. And we try to check in with each other, on that quite often. So I do run hard, as I think I'll be in about 6 countries the next 3 weeks, as we kind of wrap things up, for our end of our fiscal year here at Wipro. But I do try to make sure that I shut down when I can. So first of all, I love traveling personally. And that is, and that's my way to actually really try to check out. So, in April, I know I have a big trip. I know November, Charlie and I have a thing. We're doing something this summer. I really proactively book those things. And I actually struggle operating sometimes not having those things scheduled and looking forward to, that I know, all right, I got to get through the next 6 weeks. They're going to be hard. They're going to be fun. They'll be grueling. But in 6 weeks, I'm turning off for 2, and then I'm going to go reset my brain. We're going to have some fun. We're going to spend some time. We're going to talk about other things that I don't talk about all day. And then, and then I'm able to hit the road again, and able to hit it hard with my team. So I do really like to focus on, a higher frequency, probably of little breaks to go shut down.
Okay.
But I will, I just, I had my folks come out for a week, early in February, in the middle of the week, we're wine tasting in Napa, right? I still checking in, on the team every now and again, take a call here or there, but I'll also flex some of my stuff as well, to mix in some of those important things to me, to make sure that I'm spending time with the people that I love and care about, which also, recharges me in the middle of the week, so I do try my best to balance. Could I be better? Everyone can. But it is something that I'm acutely focused on. The last thing I do want to say is that, I like having conversations with my team about how to make sure they're getting the work-life balance that they need, because I look at this from people. If you think about you work for 30 years or so, something like 35 years. At those different points in your career, you're going to have different personal needs. I have friends right now who are starting to have their first kids right now and starting to build their families. What they wanted in their 20s versus what they want in their late 30s or 40s is completely different. So how can I, as a leader, offer an environment that will allow us to flex together, to allow them to go get what they need? At the end of the day, as long as we get our work done, and as long as it doesn't matter how we do it. So so I like to be pretty open about that as well.
Wow, that's amazing, because that balances everything else. If you're balanced, when you can come back and you can be a better leader, if you've taken time to decompress and see what you have to do. Let me ask you a question, because I travel a lot. What is your normal travel routine in getting to the airport? Let me give you mine first. I want to get there 3 hours ahead of time.
Yep.
I want to relax. I've got all of my reading material.
Yeah.
I've got everything downloaded. So my travel is work, and all of my flights are long flights for the most part.
Yeah. Yep.
That's my way of catching up on industry transformations, on different things, and that's my decompression mode till I get to where I'm going. What is yours?
That's interesting. That's a good question. It really depends. So I try to reserve so sometimes when I'm flying long haul as well, I travel on weekends. And so those I try to reserve for myself a little bit. That's when I'll indulge actually in a bit of like a Netflix series or a movie or things like that to check out. I've been really focused actually on sleep these days. And I think making sure I can get like 7 or 8 hours of sleep a day, allows me to, be what I need to be doing and get through the day. We've been getting up at 5, 6 in the morning. I'll work, for quite a bit, but we've been going, we get ready for about 7:30, 8 o'clock now, just so we can, make sure we're getting, and so when I travel, I'm actually a great plane sleeper. And so if I'm on a 10-hour flight, I'll probably sleep 8 of them. And so I look forward actually to some of these long haul flights. I flew the other day from, probably about 6 months ago now. I did, London, Singapore, Sydney, kind of on a connecting flight. And I got the plane, the flight attendants were like, "You were the easiest passenger. We didn't see you for 12 hours. So I look forward to some of the sleep on the plane. During the week though, like domestically, like that's my time to catch up on emails, honestly. Okay. So, so I'll try to get to the lounge a bit early to start working through it, and I'll bang through some on the plane. Unfortunately, what I love about being on the road is most of the time I have a packed schedule. Like breakfast, lunch, and dinners are always booked. I got meetings in between. How do I grab coffee with this? So I really try to maximize my time on the road. 3, 4 cities in a week. And just churn through it. But then the inbox just gets ridiculous. So I try to then quickly chip away at some of that stuff. So that I can get to the next day as well. So that's a little bit of what I work on. And luckily, I live by it's a small airport, but it's a great airport, like 8 minutes from the airport. Sometimes when I get on a flight, I'm leaving here 45 minutes before departure, so I try to just, get my sleep, get in the plane, and then just get focused.
I understand. So mine is 2 hours. I fly out of JFK because that has the most best combination of flights and all of that. So as we begin to close down, I want to take a step back. You talked about the professors. You talked about your parents. Mentors in your life at this stage. Maybe we move beyond the professor. Maybe the parents are still there. You're at a different level now. I'm going to say it's more C-suite level. Who does Brian talk to? Who does Brian bounce things off of?
Yeah, no, I've been fortunate and actually built a lot of this from my time in London. I've built a really great network of friends and peers, and part of an expat community where it's funny. I think out of all those living in London, maybe one's back now. There was a group of 8, 9, 10 of us, and and everyone's moved back to different places all around the world. They've done some really incredible things with their career as well, and arguably a lot of them in different professions. So I use them as some sounding boards. They're like my trusted group of folks. So I chat with them. The partner that I work for in the UK, a guy called Justin, he's still a great friend. What's great about him is we work together, but we haven't worked together for 10, 12 years. And he actually went to Dubai, came back to London, all these things. He's aware of what I do, since we're kind of in adjacent businesses. So he probably has the right amount of context for what I'm looking for in terms of when I want to get into the full story. And then, one of the partners I work with, a guy called David, he kind of founded the practice that I look after today back in 2010. He's just an exceptional human being. So, and he's thinking of things, I think about the why, he's thinking about the why's. He's always thinking about at that level, so I use him, in most of the decisions that I make as a leader, as a sounding board as well. So I have a really great network of folks that I get to rely on, because you can't do this stuff alone. Right. And I hope people see me as someone that they can do on for them, but I have really, lucky to have, that group of folks around me.
Yeah. As we begin to close down, one of the reasons that we started this maybe 4 years ago, I don't know how many years now, was to bring together leaders like yourselves to educate. So the ad says that it's a masterclass on leadership, and you have brought that to the platform today in discussing your career journey. You brought it our mission, and we hope you enjoyed being a guest. Any closing thoughts you'd like to add before we close out?
No, I think first of all, Rob, thank you very much for having me. This was great. This was a lot of fun, to chat about this. And I genuinely appreciate your friendship and kind words. To me, though, this is about paying it forward. I've been very blessed with a set of opportunities in my life. Started very early with my parents, all the way through my education to my career today, and the people that I've surrounded myself by. So now it's my turn. One of the things I love doing is helping people get promoted, to the next level, and then they're able to go, buy a home or go on a vacation because we're able to go take care of them. Yeah. The other thing that I'm really focused on is that professor I mentioned is a really big part of my life. And, we're endowing a scholarship in his name, and he's thinking about retirement to make sure that no matter when he's teaching or not, we're able to go fund that program and students and scholarships to keep technology alive. So it's my turn now to make sure that I continue to pay it forward. It's something I'm really passionate about. Thank you.
My man, thank you so much. We're going to close out now. And we are very thankful for people that tune in, like our show on YouTube or whatever platform you're watching it on. And we'll see you next Friday, because if it's Friday, it is the CEO series. So just hold on as we close out.
Take the CEO series with you anywhere, anytime. All episodes are now available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and major streaming platforms. It's not just an interview. It's a masterclass in leadership.